why do we procrastinate the important things in our lives? And how does it affect us day to day by putting it off? And what are the things we can do to actually start to change this dynamic? Well, the first thing to understand, it's not because you're lazy or undisciplined. Now, at the end of the video, I'll go into how maybe it could be a discipline issue, but that's not the underlying problem. You see, procrastination is really just a symptom. But a symptom of what? Well, it falls under pretty much two categories, but I actually believe there's a deeper issue that encompasses both these examples. The first one is the fear of failure. If I put in the work, if I start dedicating to something starting today, if I don't get it, that's going to be a problem. I'm going to feel miserable. I'm going to feel like I'm not good enough. And believe me, as somebody who's competed in jiu-jitsu, I've done it for 6 years, the fear of failure was the fundamental issue at that time. It was a huge issue. And of course, that stemmed from a lack of self-worth, the fear that if I lose, that people are going to reject me, they're going to shame me, or I'm just going to get forgotten, and I'm going to disappear into the background. So the fear of failure is an extremely potent experience that makes it so we put things off. But then there's also the opposite as well. There's the fear of success. Now, the fear of success essentially is, if I achieve this thing, what if I'm not good enough to carry its responsibility? What if I'm not worthy of it? What if people see me as a fraud, as an imposter? And that's the last position I want to be in. And so that applies a heavy amount of burden. But something I was pondering on, and fundamentally how I see this, is it's really a fear of exposure. The fear of seeing yourself, exposing yourself to yourself. I'm going to see things about myself that I might not be ready to see. I might not be ready to experience. That, when I dug down for myself, was the fundamental issue. The exposure to myself, because I was building a performer, a persona in front of people and also to myself, that if that cracked, then I'd be exposed essentially. Now, how does this affect our day-to-day? Now, first of all, you're not going to have belief in your own words anymore. Because if we keep putting things off, when you say you're going to do X, Y, and Z and you don't do it, you start to recognize to yourself that your word doesn't really mean anything. Now, what does that lead to? Well, that's naturally going to lead towards forming an identity. And the identity starts to become that I don't keep my word. And I'm just bluffing. I'm not really going to stick with it. I'm going to do it for maybe a couple weeks. I'm just going to drop it. And so as that starts to shape your identity, what does that end up doing? It drains your energy. Because now all the energy has to go into that, has to go into maintaining it or putting energy into rejecting it, trying to argue against it. It is just now an internal conflict that we have to deal with. And all the energy that now gets poured into that can no longer be poured into what is actually going to allow you to heal and to progress and elevate your spirituality, elevate your consciousness, your sense of self. Because in order for those things to manifest, in order for you to elevate, you need to open up the chambers and allow that energy, that God creative power to flow through you. But that restriction, that knot, that tightness is making it so that you have no energy left for anything. And that's actually one thing I've reflected on. I've also noticed that individuals that I talk to, where they eat well, they exercise, they're generally in good shape, but they're always tired. And I'm talking energetically. Physically, they're okay, but it's the willpower, the soul just feels fatigued all the time. Well, because if there's internal battles, which there always are for all of us, those internal battles are absolutely draining beyond belief. And they will zap everything out of you. So now, how do we actually move to change this? What's something we can do? Well, the first thing I'm going to say is no amount of productivity hacks or strategies are going to change anything, because all those are surface level. And if you're still watching right now, you've probably tried them before. I've tried them. I've tried productivity hacks, doing this at this time and, putting this on my calendar, but it often never really works, because that's not the issue. Again, procrastination is a symptom of an underlying challenge, an underlying belief structure. And so what we have to do is tackle it at the root. But how do you do that? This part may not be the most fun to hear, but we're going to have to trigger ourselves in order to see how it functions. And before we get into this, it's very important to know you have to take this seriously. The inner work, you got to be serious about it. You have to really be curious about what is going on, not critical, not judgmental. I have something called the Hero Stance, which, by the way, you can download it in my Identity Initiation Guide. Absolutely for free PDF. I go over all that stuff with going into the inner work. But you can't go in there with judgment. You have to be curious, somewhat playful, but overall serious in your objective, which is what? Number one, we need to trigger ourselves. We need to activate ourselves. And the way you do that is, well, if you're putting something off, tell yourself right now, verbally, out loud, I'm going to do it. Tomorrow morning, or in fact, right here, right now, I'm going to start doing the thing I want to do, whether that was building a business, whether that was, meeting somebody new to make friends, whatever that is. Then I want you to pay attention to what goes on internally. Do you feel fear? Maybe fear combined with stress, fear with anxiety. What is the experience happening somatically in your body? First, you'll feel the emotion, then you'll feel it located. Where do you feel it? Is it in your chest? Is it in your gut? The idea is I need you to sit with it as the first stage. I want you to sit and be in the presence of that emotion. Trail that emotion down all the way until you start to see images, maybe some symbols, some words, dialogue, memories. It's going to be a cluster. It's not going to be so clean and obvious. That's why it takes a lot of patience, a lot of time. But once you start to recognize and piece together, gain some context, then you can start to get the narrative that you've been living by. What's the narrative that's been causing for you to cope, for you to survive through procrastination? Through putting things off. Because then when you find the narrative, we can actually start to observe the way we've grounded the action. Because that's the only way it really becomes real over time is as you ground it in your life. The routines you do, the rituals you do. Rituals reinforce our belief structure. And so you want to pay attention to that day to day. Over time, as you do this, and give yourself a healthy timeline. 6 months, 1 year, year and a half. I know it feels long, but if you crunch it, if you try to go really short with it, it's not going to work. You're not going to get the results you want, and then you're going to feel discouraged. So ease up on yourself, give it time. But eventually, when you can start to see it from a more almost outside perspective, and you notice your patterns over and over and over, and you're the observer of those patterns, soon enough, what will come up is what I call the impulse to change. Something in you will start to say, well, if I'm able to observe myself doing this, maybe I can change it. Maybe I can have autonomy over it and rewrite the story. And that is when the beginning of your change can happen. And then soon, over time, now what's really important is this is where discipline will come into play. Once you start to get an answer, once you start to get an impulse to change the story, you have to now act on it. Apply something small. Maybe do something different, a typical ritual that will reinforce the procrastination. Perhaps change it slightly, add something new, and stick to it every single day. Because over time, as you do that, what happens? Your word starts to mean something to you. You no longer think you're bluffing. You start to say, well, no, I've been repeatedly doing what I'm supposed to be doing every day for the last 6 months. I've been keeping my word. And by doing that, what does that do? It starts to reshape your identity. You start to actually look at yourself as someone evolving. And you don't let go of the procrastination, meaning that you can't do that anymore, because then the issue is you can fling yourself to the opposite direction. If you over-identify with somebody who's disciplined, then what happens if you want to take a day off? What happens if you're just being human and you don't want to work on it? Well, you're going to have the same issues all over again, but just in a different form. So you don't want to overcorrect. Stay in the center. Use discipline with intention. And then over time, you will start to stack and compound, and your actions will start to ground in this new narrative. To finish everything off, if you want to do more inner work at your own time, at your own pace, go ahead and click the first link below, download my identity initiation guide. It's an absolutely free PDF, and it goes over a sequence of how you can do some inner work for yourself. This way you don't have to go in there with rejection, with anger, with resentment, and also be able to actually find the story that's been controlling your life and building awareness about it, and then actually starting to rewrite it. Of course, also, this is difficult to do alone. So if you want to work with me personally for one-on-one, click that second link below and go ahead and let's book a time together. It would be my absolute pleasure to share space with you. And then finally, can't give too much away. In fact, I'm almost tempted not even to mention it anymore because I want to take my time building this project. But I have something in the works that I truly believe that some of you guys will love it. It's something that I've always been searching for, and it's something I wish I had when I was going through my struggles and my state of suffering. And it is beyond exciting for me to share it with you at some point. So stay tuned. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video.